What the past thought the future would look like, Part 1. The dreams of yesterday. The future has always been a mirror of our deepest hopes and fears. Long before rockets pierced the sky, before circuits pulsed with life, men and women stared into the unknown and asked the same question we still whisper today. What comes next? And their answers were breathtaking. From the dusty notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci, where birds became blueprints for human wings, to the wide-eyed Victorians who dreamed of cities under glass domes, Retrofuturism is not just art, it's humanity's diary. It tells us what they wished for, what they feared, and what they thought with their descendants would become. But to truly understand it, we have to step into their shoes. Imagine Leonardo da Vinci in the late 1400s. He was surrounded by war, politics, and plague. Yet his imagination was unshackled. On parchment, he drew impossible contraptions, helicopters powered by men, tanks that rolled like armored beasts, diving suits to walk the ocean floor. To his peers, these were madness. To us, they are prophecy. It's easy to laugh at their simplicity. Cloth wings, wooden gears. But pause for a moment. Think of the courage it takes to dream of the impossible, while the world still believes the Earth is the center of the universe. That is the essence of Retrofuturism, a longing gaze into tomorrow, shaped by the limits of today. Centuries later, the Victorians took that torch of imagination and built a future of steam and brass. Writers like Jules Verne and H.G. Wells didn't just invent stories, they painted worlds that felt more alive than reality itself. They believed in machines that could cross the ocean floor, cannons that could launch us to the moon, and invisible travelers who could slip through time. As much of it was fantasy, but some of it was eerily true. Submarines, space travel. Even the idea of time travel itself, now a staple of science fiction, was first born in their smoky rooms, whispered in candlelight as both wonder and warning. They imagined skies filled with graceful airships, highways in the clouds, sprawling megacities of steel and glass. Their future was one of order, invention, and unstoppable progress. And yet hidden beneath their glittering dreams was something darker. They feared being consumed by their machines. They feared losing their humanity. For every utopia, there was also a nightmare. And isn't that still true today? When we dream of AI, of colonizing Mars, of rewriting our DNA around, we carrying the same fragile hope and trembling fear that they once did. Part 2. The dreams of yesterday. The future has always been a mirror of our deepest hopes and fears. Long before rockets pierced the sky, before circuits pulsed with life, men and women stared into the unknown and asked the same question we still whisper today. What comes next? And their answers were breathtaking. From the dusty notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci, where birds became blueprints for human wings, to the wide-eyed Victorians who dreamed of cities under glass domes, Retrofuturism is not just art, it is humanity's diary. It tells us what they wished for, what they feared, and what they thought with their descendants would become. But to truly understand it, we have to step into their shoes. Imagine Leonardo da Vinci in the late 1400s. He was surrounded by war, politics, and plague. Yet his imagination was unshackled. On parchment, he drew impossible contraptions, helicopters powered by men, tanks that rolled like armored beasts, diving suits to walk the ocean floor. To his peers, these were madness. To us, they are prophecy. It's easy to laugh at their simplicity. Cloth wings, wooden gears. But pause for a moment. Think of the courage it takes to dream of the impossible, while the world still believes the Earth is the center of the universe. That is the essence of Retrofuturism, a longing gaze into tomorrow, shaped by the limits of today. Centuries later, the Victorians took that torch of imagination and built a future of steam and brass. Writers like Jules Verne and H.G. Wells didn't just invent stories, they painted worlds that felt more alive than reality itself. They believed in machines that could cross the ocean floor, cannons that could launch us to the moon, and invisible travelers who could slip through time. Yes, much of it was fantasy, but some of it was eerily true. Submarines, space travel, even the idea of time travel itself. now a staple of science fiction, was first born in their smoky rooms, whispered in candlelight as both wonder and warning. They imagined skies filled with graceful airships, highways in the clouds, sprawling megacities of steel and glass. Their future was one of order, invention, and unstoppable progress. And yet, hidden beneath their glittering dreams was something darker. They feared being consumed by their machines. They feared losing their humanity. For every utopia, there was also a nightmare. And isn't that still true today? When we dream of AI, of colonizing Mars, of rewriting our DNA around, we carrying the same fragile hope and trembling fear that they once did? Part 3. The future was a race. The mid-20th century was an age of contradiction. Never before had the world felt so close to both paradise and annihilation. The Cold War was not just a battle of politics, it was a race for tomorrow itself. As two superpowers pointed nuclear weapons at each other, fingers trembling over buttons that could erase humanity in minutes. And yet, at the same time, they were reaching for the stars. When Sputnik beeped from the void of space in 1957, people around the globe looked up at the night sky with awe and fear. The future was no longer a fantasy in magazines. It was real. It was orbiting overhead. Soon came Yuri Gagarin, the first man to slip beyond Earth's embrace. Then, in 1969, a moment humanity will never forget. A human footprint pressed into the dust of the moon. Imagine watching that live, sitting in a small living room, the glow of the television, painting your children's faces, tears welling in your eyes as you whispered, "We did it. We really did it." For a brief, shining moment, the future belonged to everyone. The Jetsons' dream was born. They imagined a future where every family had a flying car, where robot maids hummed cheerfully as they cleaned spotless kitchens, where glass towers touched the clouds, and meals came in shiny capsules. The optimism was intoxicating. Schools told children they would one day live on Mars. Magazines promised entire cities under the ocean, and millions believed it. But the future has always been a mirror of our fears, too. As the years passed, shadows crept into the dream. The same science that reached the moon also built arsenals of nuclear warheads. People began to fear overpopulation, environmental collapse, and machines replacing human labor. Retrofuturism split in two: bright chrome utopias, dark dystopias. Books like 1984 and films like Blade Runner painted futures where technology enslaved instead of liberated, where cities rotted under neon rain, and where humanity itself seemed fragile, disposable. And maybe that's why these stories resonated so deeply. Because behind every promise of progress lies the question, what will it cost us? The 20th century taught us something profound. Our dreams of tomorrow are never pure. They are stitched together from hope and fear, from wonder and warning. When we drew rockets, we also drew bombs. When we drew robots, we also drew chains. When we drew cities in the sky, we also drew ruins on the ground. That is Retrofuturism's haunting beauty. It shows us not just what we wanted, but what we dreaded. Part 4. The future in neon shadows. By the 1980s, the dream of a shining utopian tomorrow had dimmed. The space age, once so full of wonder, slowed as budgets shrank and interest faded. Humanity had walked on the moon, yet somehow, Mars still felt impossibly far away. Instead of silver rockets and bubble-domed homes, the future was now imagined in neon and darkness. This was the birth of cyberpunk. Writers like William Gibson began to describe futures where computers ruled everything, where megacorporations controlled lives, and where technology no longer liberated humanity but consumed it. These weren't glossy Jetsons cartoons anymore. They were gritty, raw, and terrifyingly believable. The cyberpunk vision gave us images of sprawling megacities, filled with billboards that shouted promises in 1,000 languages, skies blackened by pollution, and humans who fused their bodies with machines just to survive. And yet, deep inside those stories, there was always a heartbeat, a lone figure fighting to hold on to something human in a world drowning in wires and steel. Why did this resonate so deeply in the late 20th century? Because the world was changing faster than anyone could grasp. Computers crept into homes. The internet whispered its first words. For the first time, humanity felt the rush of being truly connected and the fear of being watched. At the same time, environmental alarms grew louder. The ozone hole, melting ice, species vanishing. Suddenly, The glittering visions of underwater cities and flying cars seemed naive. People began to fear survival itself. Retrofuturism became fractured. Some clung to the old optimism, futuristic theme parks, chrome gadgets, promises of clean energy. Others turned to darker visions, books and films that warned of artificial intelligence, of machines rising, of a world where humanity had lost control. And somewhere in between, a quieter nostalgia began to grow. People looked back at the dreams of earlier generations, the Art Deco towers, the Jetsons' flying cars, and felt a bittersweet ache. Not because those futures had come true, but because they hadn't. There is something profoundly human in that nostalgia. We don't just mourn the futures that failed, we mourn the people who believed in them. The father who took his child to the 1939 World's Fair, whispering with awe, "This is your tomorrow." The teenager in the 1960s, sketching rockets, dreaming he'd one day walk on Mars. The child in the 1980s, booting up a computer for the first time, heart pounding with the sense that a new world was about to begin. They were all reaching out, not for gadgets or towers, but for hope. And that is the secret at the heart of Retrofuturism. It isn't really about robots, rockets, or neon cities. It is about the longing in human hearts. The belief that, somehow, no matter how dark today feels, tomorrow might be better. But here's the haunting truth. Tomorrow always arrives. It never looks the way we imagined. Part 5. The future we carry, and now. Here we are. The 21st century. The world that yesterday's dreamers imagined, though not quite the way they thought it would be. We don't live in cities under glass domes. We don't have flying cars parked outside every home. We haven't colonized Mars. But we do carry supercomputers in our pockets, holding all the world's knowledge. We talk to machines that answer back with voices almost human. We watch rockets land themselves balanced on pillars of flame. It's dazzling. It's terrifying. It's exactly what Retrofuturism has always been, a reflection of us. Today's Retrofuturism is shaped not by flying cars, but by artificial intelligence, climate change, and the fragile question of survival. We dream of uploading our minds to machines, of rewriting our DNA, of building cities on other planets. And yet, we fear just as our ancestors feared that. We are running too fast. We are losing ourselves in the very technology we worship. The fears are new. The fears are old. The longing is eternal. From Leonardo's impossible wings, to the Victorian's glass towers, to the cyberpunk neon of the 1980s, the future has always been a canvas. And every generation paints it with the same trembling hand, because the future is never just about machines. It's about us, about who we want to be, about who we are afraid of becoming. Look into their eyes, child who believed he would live on Mars. The mother who thought robots would cook dinner while her family laughed around the table. The father who whispered in awe at the fair, "This is your tomorrow." They are gone now, but their dreams are still here, in us. And one day, someone will look back at our visions of the future, our neon metropolises, our AI prophets, our imagined worlds of survival beyond Earth, and they will feel the same bittersweet ache. They will see our hopes, they will see our fears, and they will ask just as we ask today, did they ever get there? Did their tomorrow ever come? Retrofuturism is not about whether we guessed right or wrong. It is about the courage to dream at all. Because maybe the truth is this: the future was never meant to be perfect. The future was meant to remind us that, even in our darkest hours, humanity still dares to look up at the stars and believe. Conclusion: the future we carry in our hearts. The truth about Retrofuturism is not just about machines, predictions, or the strange gadgets we laugh at now. It is about something much deeper. It is about hope, the hope of generations who looked up at the stars and whispered, "What if?" For the Victorians, it was the hope that steam would carry them beyond oceans, that electricity would light the darkest streets, that knowledge would banish superstition forever. For the dreamers of the 1920s, it was the hope that art and science could merge, that the very shape of a car or a building could inspire beauty and possibility. For those in the 1950s, it was the hope that rockets would unite the world, that humanity would not only conquer the moon, but also conquer its divisions. And for us, it is still hope. When we laugh at the past for their wild predictions, the flying cars that never filled our skies, the domed cities that never rose from the deserts, we forget the most important thing. Those dreams carried us forward. They gave courage to people who lived in dark times, when war, poverty, or uncertainty clouded the world. Retrofuturism was not wrong. It was a lantern, showing a way forward, even if the road turned out different. And maybe that is the lesson. The future is not something we can predict. The future is something we create. When a child in 1890 drew a picture of a submarine shaped like a whale, they were not wrong, they were brave. When a writer in 1925 filled their stories with robotic butlers, they were not foolish, they were hopeful. And when we today imagine space colonies, artificial intelligence, medicine that can cure death itself, we are not naive. We are simply continuing the most human tradition of all, to dream of tomorrow. Retrofuturism shows us that the past was never about being correct, it was about daring. It was about looking at the impossible and whispering, why not? Every skyscraper we build today, every smartphone we hold in our hands, every satellite orbiting above us is a living monument to the dreams of those who never stopped believing. Think about it. The child who once dreamed of robotic teachers is now a grandparent, watching their grandchild learn from a glowing screen across the world. The man who once built model rockets in his garage lived long enough to see humanity touch the stars. The little girl who read stories of talking computers now whispers her secrets into her phone, and it answers. The future did not look exactly like they imagined. It looked better. And yet, the most emotional truth is this. Retrofuturism reminds us that the future was never just about technology. It was about us. It was about believing that humanity could become more and more compassionate, more united, more wise. We live in an age of doubt. Climate change, wars, loneliness, and fears about machines replacing us, but so did they. They, too, lived in times of doubt and still, they dreamed. So why shouldn't we? The past thought the future would look like rocket highways and crystal towers. We may never live in those cities. But every time we dare to imagine something better, every time we choose courage over fear, we step into the same role they once held. We become the retrofuturists of tomorrow. The question is not, were they right or wrong? The question is, what kind of future will we dare to dream today? Retrofuturism is not about predicting the future. It is about carrying the torch of imagination forward. The past handed it to us, glowing fragile, but full of light. Now it is our turn to pass it on. So when you look at the stars tonight, remember this. The people of yesterday are still dreaming through us, and the people of tomorrow are waiting for the dreams we dare to create today.